Well, hello there, friends. I just wanted to jump on here today to let everybody know that I'm doing okay. And if you didn't know or didn't watch my last video, my dad passed away on June 22nd, 2026. And today marks exactly 1 month since that day. And I guess the easiest way to document the stuff that's going on and the stuff we're going through is in sort of vlog style. So if you're not interested in any of the personal stuff, you can go ahead and skip this video. I'll get back to normal rock and roll stuff and pop culture stuff eventually, but I just have to document this stuff as it goes. I've been writing in a journal a little bit, but this really is just the best way for me to put my thoughts into a concrete form and document history, I guess. Now, that last video was cut short somewhat abruptly because I had some friends showed up and the nerves were a little raw in that one, and it's pretty emotional. Now, a month out, I could see things a little more clearly. We're starting to get some plans, what we're going to be doing. I have written quite a few pages of stuff here over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to be referring to some of that for this video. Some of it's just going to be off the cuff, and but this is going to be like sort of the tribute to DUBS. Some of the stuff that I didn't get a chance to say in that last video, and sort of his abridged history of how we got where we're at right now. First funny story is the reason we call him DUBS is because my name is Thomas Sean, and my daughter's mother always called me TS. And so my daughter started calling me TS, and my dad's name was Thomas Williams, so they started calling him TW, and then it got shortened to T-Dubs. Then it was just Dubs. That was from the brain of a 5-year-old, and we just thought it was the cutest thing ever, and he loved it. He liked it a lot better than Grandpa for sure. But yeah, that's how Dubs came along. And Dubs is kind of a record term too, so it was cool for the record man to be called Dubs. The story starts in the 60s and 70s. My dad was a hippie. And if you know anything culturally about hippies, they generally don't own anything. And as a group, if one guy has bread and the other guy has lunch meat, then everybody has sandwiches. And what happened was I came along unexpectedly in the early 70s, and he started getting a little more responsible and married my mom, which was tumultuous to say the least, and started a family and got a job and started having things, which is one of the reasons why he had no friends, is because when he improved the station of his life, he didn't improve the quality of his friends. So all of the hippie friends still had nothing, and I feel like they were jealous or felt like if he had stuff, then they had stuff, and they all stole from him and screwed him over time, and he just slowly eliminated people out of his life. But at some point he read a book that told him that the best way to create wealth, the lowest risk possible, was real estate. So sometime 75, 76 maybe, he got an inheritance from an aunt or somebody that died and put a down payment on a house. It was our first house, and we just sold that house last year or 2 years ago when he started downsizing some of the houses. And we'll get back to some of that a little bit later. But eventually made enough and had enough equity to buy another house, and then another house and another house, and yada yada yada. But at some point about 1978, 79, he got a good job with the city, which was a very, very good paying job with benefits and pension and all that stuff. And it really fueled the real estate stuff, and it really fueled his collecting bug. He was always into records. He started going to garage sales looking for records, and then he would find all kinds of cool stuff. And it became his part-time job. He had maps made up that he would just go systematically. If he got there 10 minutes after the sale opened, he felt like it was a bust because all the good stuff's gone. So he became that guy that was sitting outside of garage sales. If they opened at 7, he was there at 6:30. And yeah, that's where all of this stuff came from. At the peak, probably 2016, 2017, we had 8 houses, 10 houses, something like that. And it provided a full-time job for me, taking care of all that stuff and mowing lawns and painting and doing whatever remodeling and stuff. And I just really decided that I didn't like that business at all, especially dealing with tenants, getting tenants, finding good tenants, dealing with the tenants when they go bad and getting them evicted and all that stuff. I just had no interest. But the whole idea is at a certain point, it becomes a snowball rolling down a hill, and it just becomes easier and easier to pay everything off, especially funded by the firefighter's job, and eventually everything got all paid off. So since he wanted capitalism, he decided that the ultimate gift was the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow was the really fancy house in the super nice neighborhood. So that's what he got himself. Now, meanwhile, remember that my full-time job was taking care of all of these houses and doing all that stuff, but I was growing to detest the whole thing, and unbeknownst to me, the plan was for me to start buying these houses 20 years ago, and I was going to take over all of that stuff. And he had no idea that I had no interest in any of that. So as soon as we got the big fancy house, we slowly started selling off the rentals one at a time and getting rid of some of the white elephants. We had a storage house that was full of collectibles and a lot of my stuff and a lot of his stuff, and it got broke into over and over again. We call that the purge. You can go on my other channel. I have a video about when we found that it was broke into and they had rummaged through everything and stole everything of value. That's a whole nother story. But another house that we were in the process of remodeling, and I kind of just got to my wit's end of figuring out how to do the wiring and all of that kind of stuff. And so we sold all that stuff off, sold off the house that I had lost because of squatters during the pandemic. And now we got down to the big fancy house. The other house where I was living, we have one that's under contract, and we have one rental left, where sometime last year, thank goodness, we signed on to a property managing place. So thank goodness we don't have to deal with eviction and all of that stuff anymore for the rental, or else that would have been the next one that we had to sell. But so that basically brings us up to date. I could go into detail more about those things, and I'll probably talk about some stuff over time, but that's the bullet point history. But now we're stuck with the fancy house that the bills and taxes and insurance are twice as much as they are at a regular house. So the plan was to downsize and move us back into the old house where I've been staying, move my stepmom and all her stuff back over there, and the stuff we want to keep back over there. But anybody that's ever moved into a bigger place knows that when you get into a bigger place, you expand to the size of that place. So trying to cram all that stuff back down into a smaller box is nearly impossible. So we've altered the plan again, and now we're going to clean out the other place, move me and the rest of her stuff over here, get rid of that house, or turn it into a rental. We've talked about maybe having another rental, because, and then eventually we're downsizing, and then we have to get rid of the big house eventually. But it's going to be a couple of years. We're going to live here. We're going to just have to circle our wagons, figure out what we can do. But now dealing with my stepmother is its own special set of I hesitate to say problems, but they create certain circumstances, because she's a very, very sweet lady. She's very emotional and very sentimental, and she's very not self-aware. She says things and then her actions play out completely different ways. The reason we still have that other house, why I was staying over there, is because that house is full of her stuff, because she was working full-time when we bought this house, and after she lost her job because of her back and her foot, she's all broken down, so she can't do hardly anything. It takes her 15 minutes to walk out to the car, and she just physically can't do a lot of the things that need to be done. And it was a little cold-hearted, but we moved all of him and his stuff over here, and we left all of her shit over there, because most of it's junk, honestly. She had collections and she does stuff too, but she collects shit. It's all garbage, to be blunt. And she just moves like molasses. Her going through stuff entails her getting in touch with all of these emotions, and she has to touch and feel everything and feel the sentimentality, and she can't throw things away. We went through the record box, I mean not the records, but like important papers and stuff, and he has all his school grade cards and everything, all the way through college and all the way back through grade school. And I said, throw that shit away. We don't need that shit. I want to keep that stuff. It's him. It's part of him. And I get it, but it's all just garbage. Throw it away. And the other thing is, she's very, very wasteful with money. If she's making something for dinner, she'll buy another thing of garlic salt, and she's got 3 of them in there, and she buys it because she said, oh, I didn't know if I had one. Well, yeah, because you buy a new one every time you make that stupid thing, and now you got 4 of them in there. And she spends money on sodas, and then she doesn't drink like this much at the bottom, so it's just wasteful. It's fucking $5 a day that she wastes on soda. And I drink soda too, but I drink them all. That's one thing. And she'll spend tons of money on lottery tickets and stuff. So the fact that we're gonna have to stay in this expensive house for longer, minus his pension, we only have those 2 payments, 1 mortgage and 1 rent payment to pay all the bills, puts her in a scarcity mindset, which I'm kind of glad about, because maybe it'll make her think a little bit about paying the bills. He was trying to put me in a position where I took over all that stuff and pay all the bills and stuff, but she got a little defensive when I said something about paying the bills, and she said, I pay my bills and blah 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 blah. We thought she was going to fall apart, and I was going to have to step up and do all of that stuff. But she's been really strong about it, and she's kind of holding it together, and she's taking care of it. So I said, if you're going to take care of the bills, you take care of the bills. I got my half of the money, and not that it's even about money. I don't even care about the money, but it's just, I mean, that's going to be the money for me for the rest of my life. So all the money that's coming in from those payments is what we use to pay the bills, and she's just so afraid that we're not going to have enough to pay the bills every month, and I'm hoping that that kind of puts her in check about how things play out around here. God, I hope she never watches this. She's going to be so mad at me for putting this out there in the world. So if you talk to her, don't tell her I said any of this stuff. And on that same front of about being emotional and sentimental, I knew it was going to be an uncomfortable conversation talking about what was going to happen, like logically, and with his body and all that stuff. And he was an atheist. He had no friends, very few friends, and he was very antisocial. All he wanted to do is just smoke weed and watch his shows and talk to the people that he had to talk to. And so I said, no services. No, we're not doing any of that stuff, because all that's for is for closure for me and for her. And I don't need everybody coming up to me saying, oh, I'm so sad, he was such a good guy, yeah, I know, oh my goodness, I have to act like, oh, and I have to tell the story 500 times about what happened, and oh, it was so quick, and blah, 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 blah. So now I can just say, I'll send you the link. You watch this video, watch that last video, you'll know the whole story. But she put her foot down about she's got a plot. They've already bought a plot of land, and there's going to be a tombstone with his name and her name on it. It's going to be next to her mom and dad. Fine. If you need that closure, you buy a tombstone, put his name on it, put your name on it. But there's going to be no services, especially no churches, no preachers, and I'm going to throw ice. I'm going to shut it down if we have any kind of celebration of life or service. If anybody mentions God or Jesus, you're done. You're done. Don't talk about that stuff. He was an atheist in the I don't know, I don't care way. I'm an atheist in the fuck your God way. No, none at all. Sorry, I got a little, that gets me heated. I used to try to bring up the idea to him about, like, what are we going to do with all the stuff, and where's the money, and show me where all the bodies are buried and all that stuff. What's going to happen when you die. And he used to joke that he has super health care through his pension and his fire department stuff, and I have no health care, and luckily I don't have any health concerns yet. But we both agreed that since I had no health care, that he was probably going to live longer than me. And that turned out not to be true so much. I'm really going to miss our conversations that we used to have about politics and movies and music, and he would watch all these movies on Turner Classic Movies, and then we'd talk about who was in them and what else they were in, and oh, do you remember this guy, and you remember that guy, and oh yeah, I saw that movie, and blah blah blah. And all that stuff is amazing, and I'm going to have amazing memories of all the stuff that I learned from him. I hope he knew how much I learned from him over the years, because we used to miss like ships in the night, because he was always get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start your day and do your things, and I'm usually not even going to bed until after 4 in the morning, and mornings were just not a thing for me. So we missed a lot of years of doing stuff because of that. And I think he knew how smart I'd gotten, and that most of that came from him, or wanting to impress him, I guess. never admit to him that I was trying to impress him, but that's ultimately what it was. I mean, we always want to just, we never want to become our parents, but we definitely want to impress our parents, especially if we like them, you know. And he used to always say, well, if you're so smart, how come you're not rich? Well, because I never cared about money. I mean, it's a cliche, but I just want to be happy. And, you know, just want to play my guitar, man. I just want to live my life. And that's so dumb to say that out loud, but that's what it is. We're just here. Nobody knows why we're here. You invent reasons for why things are the way they are and what your purpose is, but you create a purpose for yourself. And his was to make a lot of money to keep the outside world out. And I finally began to understand that. And we started to meet a little bit in the fact that he started to understand that I didn't care about money and life is just going to happen, and that has no bearing on me. And he was starting to understand me a little bit, and I was starting to understand that, yeah, having a little bit of money in the bank keeps the wolves at bay and allows you to have more happiness and more time to do the things you want. So he taught me a lot, and I feel like I taught him a lot about the world too. So he wasn't artistic or musical in the slightest bit. Man, he could draw like drafting stuff. If we were drawing diagrams for building something, he could do drawing in sort of a drafting sort of way, but it wasn't artistic. And he wasn't musical, but he did have an eye for objective beauty when it came to paintings or sculptures or records. He learned a lot about, and he could just flip through a box of records and just pull out the one that brought it home in books for $100, or all of the collections of stuff. He just found neat stuff. Let me show you something real quick. One of his first big obsessions was these oh, I'm breaking them. God damn. Was these puzzle boxes and hideaway boxes and cigarette boxes. And he would just find them at sales and just buy them. And eventually he was like, I don't find those anymore. And I'm like, yeah, you bought every one of them from this whole area. Like, everyone that was out there, you have now. But that's what I was going to show you. Is like he would go to sales, and he would, if he saw something, and he's like, oh, I have one of those already. And so he'd have to buy another one. And then the next thing you know, he just has, so all these are baseball bats. All of these are umbrellas and swords. And what the heck is this thing? It's just a equalizer of some kind, and like just all swords and stuff. Here's a whole box of just fancy parasols and umbrellas, and it's just stuff. And those collections just go, look at this, just on and on and on and on and on. And we're gonna have to go through all of this stuff. Look at this. This is where, oh, just fancy stuff, rock and roll stuff. Anything rock and roll he would buy. That's how we would end up with just all of this stuff. Look at that Osborne thing. Records and guitar stuff, and just anything with rock and roll shit on it, music shit on it. Let's change our position here a little bit. I accidentally pushed the wrong button. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to edit this section to the end of that other section. But anyway, he wasn't artistic, but he was tactical. He could think out of the box. He could find the question to ask a retail worker that would just stump everybody. And what? he'd go to buy a TV, and he just would always just have the most bizarre question. And the poor kid that would come over to help us would be like, start reading the box, and we'd be like, if the answer was on the box, we would have got the answer. Like, oh, hold on, I'll let me go get somebody that might know. And he just had a way of I just always got such a kick out of his interactions with the real world out there, because he just didn't care. He just bulldozed through it the way he wanted to, and he was a pacifist, and he was never violent, but he was a huge guy. He used to weigh a whole lot more, but he was 6'4", 6'3", and he just was an imposing figure. He has a big, booming, deep voice, and a lot of my friends that would meet him would be like, your dad kind of scares me. And I'm like, and he scared me for a long time too, until he just realized that he was a great big teddy bear, and he could see the Matrix, but he just didn't care if he lived in it or not. He was fine living in it, as long as you left him alone. Just leave him alone to his TV shows, and whatever. Especially after he retired, he knew he had money, and responsibilities were slowly being put on the back burner, and he sort of reverted to being a teenager. I've heard a lot of older people that happens to, but we thought his brain was going to be what was going to go, because he just had a lot of symptoms of early onset Alzheimer's, and he would forget things, and he would tell you things, and if you had an idea that was different than his idea, no, we're going to do it my way. But then 3 weeks later, he would go, I was thinking, maybe we should do it like a ba 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 ba, and he would put your idea back out in the world like it was his idea. And you would go, after a while, you don't even correct him. You just say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'm glad I had it 3 weeks ago. But he was 74 going on 13, and it was just, it was a little annoying to live through, but it was, hindsight, it was kind of fun to watch, and especially after I learned to just go with it, he was a lot of fun to be around. And like I said, he didn't really have a lot of he didn't really have a lot of friends, but I would see his face light up whenever my daughter would come over and be ranting and raving about whatever crazy stuff is going on in a 19 or 20-year-old's mind, and all the drama in the world and all that stuff. Or when my best friend Chad would come over and talk about stuff or work on stuff, and I just saw his face light up, and he just loved those guys so much, and gonna miss him. That's just the bottom line. He was my foundation. He was my landlord. He was my dad, and he was my boss, and he was my friend. So yeah, I had originally written in my notes there that things are going to change dramatically for me, and in some aspects that's true, and in other aspects it's just kind of just same thing. We're just going to keep moving forward, and found a bunch of shirts and stuff that he has in his closet, and he wore the same ratty t-shirt and the same ratty flannel. And when I got to looking in his stuff in his drawers, he's got 4 packages of unopened t-shirts, 5 brand new flannels, and all of these button-up shirts were kind of his nice shirts, I guess you could say. And it's deep in the summer. I don't like to wear short sleeves usually, especially with button-ups. My thing is the long sleeve puffy button-up shirts. I'm from the 80s, so I like them puffy button-up shirts. But for the summer, these are kind of turning out okay, and I've gotten quite a few compliments on my new looks. I don't know if I could do the plaid ones or not. I'm gonna try to see if Chris wants some of those shirts. He cuts the sleeves off and stuff, and yeah, I just said something about somebody said something the other day about blah blah blah. I thought this was I thought his wishes were to do this or do that, and I'm like, well, you know, he still gets a vote, but he's not here to enforce his vote anymore. So I'm just doing what I think needs to be done with this stuff and with my life, and we're just moving forward. So get a hold of me if you know me. Come hang out. I'm rearranging the record room here. I'll probably make a whole nother video about that, but I rebranded my YouTube channel from the Optimistic Nihilist because I saw that there was a couple other people out there with that name, and in light of all of this stuff, rebranding it the Record Room, because that's what we always called he remodeled the garage over at the other house, and that was where his record room was. And now the basement here, where I've been walking around, you see everything behind me. This is now the record room. It was always just a convenient shorthand for where all the records were, and now it's official. This is the record room, and this is the actual collection. Most people don't get to see this stuff. All that stuff that's for sale out in the garage is what we're trying to get in front of people, but we're gonna start digging and seeing what's in here and finding what's going on. They also called him the Record Man, and he used to have personalized plates. I got to thinking the other day that I think the personalized plates were on the truck when he wrecked it, and he was just in such shock when he wrecked that truck that he didn't get his personalized plates. I wish I had the Record Man license plates. Damn it. But I couldn't turn my channel into the Record Man, because I am not the Record Man. I am son of Record Man. And like I said, this is the Record Room. Anyway, I'm just ranting now. So if you made it this far, know I love you. Thank you. Please subscribe if you haven't. There's going to be some record content on the Record Room YouTube channel. So I love you, and bye.